The old warship moved slowly through the darkness of space. Its name was the ISS Endurance, and it had been flying for 147 years. The hull was covered with scars and patches. Some parts of the ship were newer than others. Some parts had been replaced many times. But the ship still worked. It still flew. And it was still dangerous. Captain Una Park stood on the bridge and watched the stars pass by on the main screen. She was 63 years old. Her hair was gray, and her face showed the marks of many hard years. She had been captain of the Endurance for 22 years. Before that, she had served on 3 other ships. All of those ships were destroyed in battle, but the Endurance survived. It always survived. "Captain, we are approaching Centrum Prime," said Commander Jiho Lee. He was the first officer, a tall man with a calm voice. He had served under Captain Park for 15 years. "How many ships at the station?" the captain asked. Commander Lee checked his screens. "I count 212 vessels. Most of them belong to the Velith Dominion." Captain Park did not react to this news. Her face stayed calm, but inside she was thinking very carefully. The Velith Dominion was one of the most powerful groups in the galaxy. They had new ships with new weapons. They had technology that humans could only dream about. And they had brought 200 ships to a peace conference. That was not a sign of peace. That was a sign of war. "Lieutenant Han, how are the engines?" the captain asked. Lieutenant Sai Han was the chief engineer. She was a small woman with oil stains on her uniform. She loved the Endurance more than anything in the universe. She knew every pipe, every wire, every bolt on the ship. She had kept it running for 30 years. "The engines are stable, Captain," she said. "The old girl is tired, but she will not fail us." The captain nodded. She trusted Lieutenant Han completely. If anyone could keep this old ship alive, it was her. The Endurance slowly entered the docking area of Centrum Prime. The station was huge, built by many different species over thousands of years. Ships from across the galaxy were parked there. But the Velith ships stood out. They were beautiful. They were shiny. They were perfect. And next to them, the Endurance looked like a piece of garbage. Captain Park could see other species looking at her ship through the station windows. Some of them were laughing. Some of them were pointing. She could imagine what they were saying. "Look at that old human ship. Look at those patches on the hull. How is that thing still flying?" She did not care what they thought. She had learned long ago that what a ship looked like did not matter. What mattered was what a ship could do. The docking was complete. Ambassador Taiho Kim came to the bridge. He was a young man, only 45, but he was smart and experienced. He had been chosen to speak for Earth at this conference. "Captain Park," he said with a polite bow, "thank you for bringing me safely here." "The journey is not over yet, Ambassador," she replied. "We still have to get home." The ambassador smiled, but his eyes were worried. "I have heard bad things about the Velith. They are proud. They are aggressive. And they do not respect humanity. Most species do not respect humanity," the captain said simply. "We are young. We are weak. We do not have the best technology. But we are still here. That should tell them something." The delegation left the ship and walked through the station to the meeting hall. Captain Park went with them as military escort. Commander Lee stayed on the ship with the crew. The meeting hall was enormous. Hundreds of delegates from dozens of species were seated in a great circle. In the center of the room, the Velith delegation was already waiting. High Commander Dreth was their leader. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. His eyes were cold and cruel. When he saw the human delegation approaching, he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "So the humans have arrived," he said. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. I was beginning to think you got lost in space." Some of the other delegates laughed at this joke. Captain Park said nothing. She just watched. "And I see you brought your finest warship to protect you," Dreth continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Tell me, Captain, is that ship held together with hope and prayers?" More laughter filled the hall. The captain felt the eyes of every delegate upon her. They were all waiting to see how she would react. "The Endurance has served Earth for 147 years," she said calmly. "In that time, it has fought in 31 major battles. It has never been defeated." Dreth's smile grew wider. "Ah, but it has never faced the Velith Dominion. Our ships are the finest in the galaxy. Our weapons are the most advanced. Your little antique would not last 5 minutes against even one of our vessels." Captain Park looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "Perhaps you are right, High Commander. But then again, perhaps you are wrong. Ships are like people. The young ones are fast and strong, but the old ones are wise. They know things that the young ones have not yet learned." Dreth laughed loudly. "And what has your old ship learned, Captain? How to fall apart slowly?" The hall filled with laughter again. Ambassador Kim looked uncomfortable. But Captain Park remained calm. "My ship has learned how to survive," she said quietly. "That is a lesson your new ships have never needed to learn. I wonder if they ever will." For just a moment, something flickered in Dreth's cold eyes. Was it doubt? Was it anger? Captain Park could not tell. But she had planted a seed. A small seed of uncertainty. The conference began, and the talking started. Captain Park stood at the back of the room and watched everything. She watched the Velith delegates whisper to each other. She watched their ships through the station windows, circling like predators waiting to strike. Something bad was coming. She could feel it in her old bones. The Velith had not brought 200 ships for a peace conference. They had brought them for a war dot, and the only thing standing between them and Earth was one old ship with a crew of 340 humans. Captain Park smiled to herself. Those were not bad odds. Not for the Endurance. The negotiations went badly from the start. Ambassador Taiho Kim tried his best. He spoke clearly. He offered fair deals. He showed respect to everyone in the room. But the Velith did not want peace. They wanted something else entirely. On the third day of talks, High Commander Dreth stood up in the middle of the session. His 4 arms were crossed, and his cold eyes swept across the room. "I am tired of these games," he announced. "Let me speak plainly. The Velith Dominion requires the human solar system as a forward staging ground for our military operations. You will give us access to your planets. You will allow our ships to use your space. And you will accept our protection." The room went silent. Ambassador Kim stood up slowly. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. "High Commander, what you are asking for is not protection. It is occupation. Earth will never agree to this." Dreth smiled his cold smile. "That is unfortunate, Ambassador, because you have no choice. Look around you. Look at our ships. Look at your ship. Do you really think you can refuse us?" "We can, and we will," Kim replied firmly. The High Commander's smile disappeared. His eyes became hard as stone. "Then you have 3 standard days to change your mind. After that, we will take what we want. And there is nothing you can do to stop us." He turned and walked out of the hall. His delegation followed him. The other species in the room began whispering to each other. No one stood up to help the humans. No one offered support. They were all afraid of the Velith. Captain Park walked over to Ambassador Kim. The young man's hands were shaking slightly. "We need to contact Earth Command," he said quietly. "They need to know what is happening." "The Velith are blocking all long-range communications," the captain replied. I had Lieutenant Han check. Nothing is getting through. Kim closed his eyes for a moment. Then we are truly alone. We are not alone, Ambassador. We have the Endurance. We have our crew. That is not nothing. They returned to the ship quickly. The crew was waiting for them. They had seen the Velith ships moving into new positions. They knew something bad was happening. Captain Park called a meeting of her senior officers in the small conference room. Commander Jiho Lee was there. Lieutenant Sahi Han was there, still covered in engine grease. Ensign Doan Choi, the young navigator, sat nervously in his chair. And Master Sergeant Yoonji Kang, the leader of the ship's Marines, stood against the wall with her arms crossed. "Here is the situation," Captain Park said. "The Velith have given us an ultimatum. They want our solar system. We have 3 days to surrender. If we do not, they will attack." "How many ships do they have in position?" Commander Lee asked. 200. They have surrounded the station. All exit routes are blocked. Ensign Choi, who was only 24 years old, raised his hand. "Captain, with respect, how can we possibly fight 200 ships? We are just one old vessel." Captain Park looked at the young man. She remembered when she was his age. She had been just as scared before her first real battle. But she had learned something important since then. "Let me tell you something, Ensign," she said. "This ship has survived for 147 years. Do you know how many enemies have tried to destroy it?" "I do not. I lost count long ago." "Bigger fleets than this have tried. Stronger weapons than theirs have tried. And yet, here we are, still flying." She walked to the main screen and pulled up the ship's service record. 31 major battles. Hundreds of smaller fights. The names of enemy species scrolled across the screen, one after another. "The Velith see an old ship," she continued. "They see patches and scars and outdated systems. But they do not see what those patches mean. Every scar on this hull is a lesson we learned. Every repair is a problem we solved. Every year this ship has survived, has made it stronger, not weaker." Lieutenant Han nodded. She understood better than anyone. She had spent 30 years learning the secrets of the Endurance. She knew things about this ship that no manual could teach. "The engines are ready, Captain," she said. "I can push them harder than the designers ever intended. I know exactly how far they can go before they break." The Velith cannot say the same about their new ships. Master Sergeant Kang spoke next. Her voice was low and dangerous. "My Marines are ready. We have trained for boarding actions our whole careers. Those Velith ships are designed to be run by computers. They have small crews. If we can get aboard them, we can take them." Commander Lee studied the tactical display. "The Velith are confident. They think this will be easy. That confidence is a weakness. They will not expect us to fight back. They certainly will not expect us to attack." Captain Park smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "Then we have our advantage," she said. "They underestimate us. They think we are weak because we are old. They think we are stupid because we do not have their technology. Let them think that. Let them laugh at us. When the time comes, we will show them what human experience is worth." The meeting ended. The officers returned to their stations. Everyone on the ship felt the tension in the air. They knew what was coming, but they also knew their captain. They knew their ship, and they trusted both with their lives. That night, Captain Park walked through the ship alone. She touched the walls, felt the slight vibration of the engines, listened to the sounds of the old systems working. This ship had been her home for 22 years. It had protected her. It had carried her through the worst moments of her life. And now, it would carry her through one more battle. She stopped at a viewport and looked out at the Velith fleet. 200 ships, gleaming in the starlight. They were beautiful machines. perfect machines. But they were machines without history, without memory, without experience. The Endurance was different. The Endurance remembered every fight it had ever been in, every victory, every close call, every moment when destruction seemed certain but survival was found. "They call you old," Captain Park whispered to her ship. "They call you weak. But you and I know the truth, don't we? You are not old. You are experienced. And experience is worth more than all the new technology in the galaxy." The ship hummed around her as if it understood. 2 days passed. The Veloth made no move to negotiate. They simply waited, confident in their power. On the third day, as the deadline approached, Captain Park received one final message from High Commander Dreth. "This is your last chance, human. Surrender now, and some of you may live. Resist, and you will all die. Your choice." Captain Park looked at her crew. She saw no fear in their eyes, only determination. She opened a channel to the Veloth flagship. "High Commander Dreth, this is Captain Una Park of the ISS Endurance. We have considered your offer, and our answer is no. Earth does not surrender. Not now, not ever. If you want our home, you will have to take it. And I promise you, that will not be easy." She closed the channel. The war had begun. The attack came without warning. High Commander Dreth did not wait for the deadline to pass. He was too eager, too confident. He wanted to crush the humans quickly and move on to bigger conquests. 40 Veloth ships broke from the main formation. They moved fast, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Their target was simple: destroy the Endurance, then take the station. Then send a message to Earth: surrender or die. On the bridge of the Endurance, alarms began to sound. 40 ships incoming, Commander Lee reported. His voice was calm, but his fingers moved quickly across his console. They will be in weapons range in 2 minutes. Captain Park sat in her command chair. She had been waiting for this moment. She had been preparing for it. "All hands battle stations," she announced over the ship's speakers. "This is not a drill. Enemy forces are approaching. Everyone to their positions." The crew moved with practice speed. They had trained for this many times. But this was real. This was not practice. Some of them might die today. Ensign Dohan Choi took his place at the navigation console. His hands were shaking. He was only 24 years old. He had never been in real combat before. Captain Park noticed his fear. "Ensign Choi, look at me." The young man turned to face her. His eyes were wide. "Today, you fly by instinct," she said. "Do not think about what the computer tells you. Feel the ship. Feel the enemy. Trust yourself. Can you do that?" Choi took a deep breath. Then he nodded. "Yes, Captain. I can do that. Good. Now show me what you have learned." The Veloth ships came closer. They were in perfect formation, a wall of death moving toward the station. Their weapons began to charge, glowing with deadly energy. "They expect us to run," Commander Lee said, "or to hide behind the station." "Then we will do neither," Captain Park replied. "Ensign Choi, take us straight toward them. Maximum speed." Choi hesitated for just 1 second. Then he smiled. "Yes, Captain." The Endurance surged forward. Its old engines roared with power that surprised even Lieutenant Han in the engine room. The ship shot toward the enemy formation like an arrow. The Veloth were confused. This was not what they expected. Their targeting systems tried to lock onto the human ship, but the Endurance was moving strangely. It was not flying in a straight line. It was weaving, diving, rising, spinning. It was moving in ways that no computer could predict, because no computer was flying it. A human was flying it. And humans do not fly like machines. They are hesitating, Commander Lee observed. Their targeting systems cannot lock onto us. Lieutenant Han, divert power from non-essential systems to the engines. Captain Park ordered. I want every bit of speed this ship can give us. Diverting now, Captain, Han replied from engineering. But I have to warn you, the reactor is already running hot. If I push it much harder, we might have problems. I trust you to know the limits, Lieutenant. Push as hard as you can. The Endurance dove into the heart of the Velith formation. Enemy ships were all around them now. Weapons fire filled the space, beams of light cutting through the darkness. But the old human ship danced between them, moving with a grace that seemed impossible for such an ancient vessel. Ensign Choi was no longer afraid. He was completely focused. He could feel the ship responding to his commands. He could feel the enemy ships around him, could sense where they would fire next. He did not know how he knew. He just knew. Targeting their lead ship, Commander Lee announced. Their shields are strong, but I have found a weak point. Firing now. The Endurance's weapons were old. They were not as powerful as the Velith guns, but they hit exactly where Commander Lee aimed them. The lead Velith ship shuddered as explosions ripped through its engine section. Direct hit. Someone shouted. Enemy ship disabled. Captain Park did not celebrate. Next target. Keep moving. The battle continued. The Endurance flew through the enemy formation like a ghost, never staying in one place long enough to be hit. It struck again and again, always finding the weak points, always hitting exactly where it hurt the most. In the engine room, Lieutenant Han worked like a woman possessed. The reactor was screaming at her, telling her it could not take much more. But she knew this engine. She had rebuilt it 3 times. She had replaced almost every part over the years. She knew exactly what it could handle. Just a little more, old girl, she whispered to the ship. Just a little more. On the bridge, Captain Park watched the battle unfold. The Velith were in chaos. Their perfect formation had fallen apart. Their automated systems could not adapt to an enemy that did not behave like a computer. 12 enemy ships destroyed or disabled, Commander Lee reported. How long has it been? The captain asked. Lee checked his display. 16 minutes. 16 minutes. 12 ships. The Velith had expected to destroy the Endurance in 5 minutes. Instead, they were losing. The surviving enemy ships began to pull back. They had lost too many. Their confidence was broken. They fled back to the main fleet, leaving their damaged comrades behind. The bridge crew erupted in cheers. They had done it. They had fought off 40 ships with just one old vessel. But Captain Park did not cheer. She knew this was just the beginning. Commander Lee, damage report. Minor hull damage on decks 7 and 12. No casualties. Shields are holding at 60%. Lieutenant Han, how are the engines? There was a pause before Han replied. The reactor is stable, but it needs rest. I had to bypass 3 safety systems. Give me an hour, and I can put them back. You have 30 minutes, Lieutenant. The Velith will attack again soon. The captain stood up from her chair and looked at her crew. They were tired but proud. They had proven something today. They had proven that old did not mean weak. What we did today will be remembered, she told them. 16 minutes. 12 ships. That is what experience is worth. But the fight is not over. The Velith still have 188 ships out there. They are angry. They are embarrassed. And they will come for us with everything they have. She looked out at the stars, at the Velith fleet regrouping in the distance. But we have shown them something they did not expect. We have shown them that we can hurt them. And now they know. This old ship, this crew of humans, we are not easy prey. We are survivors. And we will survive this too. Ensign Choi was slumped in his chair, exhausted but smiling. He had flown the ship of his life today. He had done things he never knew he could do. "Captain," he said quietly, "I think I understand now. What you meant about experience." Park nodded at him. "Good. Remember that feeling, Ensign. Hold on to it. Because in a few hours, you will need to do it all over again. And next time, it will be even harder." The young man sat up straighter. "I will be ready, Captain. I know you will." Across the space, High Commander Dreth stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 12 ships, lost to one old human vessel. It was impossible. It was humiliating. "Bring me the full fleet," he growled. "Every ship, every weapon. I want that human vessel destroyed. I want it erased from existence. No more games. No more mercy." The war was about to get much worse. High Commander Dreth wasted no time. He gathered every ship he had. 188 vessels formed a massive wall of death around Centrum Prime. There would be no escape this time. No running. No hiding. On the station, delegates from other species watched in horror. They had seen what the Endurance could do against 40 ships. But this was different. This was an entire armada. No single ship, no matter how experienced, could survive this. Captain Una Park stood on her bridge and watched the enemy fleet surround them. Her crew was silent, waiting for her orders. They trusted her completely. They would follow her into the heart of a star if she asked. "Open a channel to the Velith flagship," she said calmly. Commander Lee looked at her with surprise. "Captain?" "Do it." The channel opened. High Commander Dreth's blue face appeared on the main screen. His eyes burned with anger. "Have you come to surrender, human?" he asked. "It is too late for that. You embarrassed me. You killed my soldiers. Now you will pay." Captain Park shook her head. "I have not come to surrender, High Commander. I have come to explain something to you. Something you do not understand." Dreth laughed. "What could a primitive human possibly explain to me?" "You look at my ship and see weakness," Park said. "You see old technology and old systems. You think your new ships are better because they are faster and stronger and shinier. But you are wrong." She stepped closer to the screen, her eyes locked on the alien commander. "Your ships are designed to fight for you. They have computers that aim your weapons. They have systems that fly your vessels. They have machines that make all the decisions. Your crews are passengers. They just sit and watch while the ship does everything." Dreth's smile faded slightly. He was listening now. "The Endurance is different," Park continued. "This ship does not fight for us. It fights with us. Every action requires human hands. Every decision requires human minds. That is not a weakness. That is our greatest strength." She pulled up the Endurance's history on her display, making sure Dreth could see it. "Do you know what Earth's military doctrine is called, High Commander? We call it the Survival Protocol. We do not build the newest ships. We do not chase the latest technology. Instead, we keep the ships that survive. We learn from every battle. We pass that knowledge down from crew to crew, from generation to generation." Park pointed to the scars on the hull visible through the bridge windows. "Every mark on this ship tells a story. Every repair is a lesson learned. Your ships are 2 years old. They know nothing. They have experienced nothing. But the Endurance has been fighting for 147 years. It has faced enemies you have never heard of. It has survived weapons that no longer exist. It carries the wisdom of every battle it has ever fought." Dreth's face hardened. "Pretty words, human. But they will not save you. One have 200 ships. You have one. Then send them Park replied. "Send all of them, and we will show you what experience is worth." The channel closed. Captain Park turned to her crew. "The battle stations. This is the real fight. Everything before this was just practice." The Velith Armada attacked as one. 200 ships fired at once, filling space with deadly light. The Endurance dove and spun, somehow avoiding the worst of the barrage. Lieutenant Han pushed the engines beyond anything she had ever attempted. The reactor screamed, warning lights flashed everywhere, but she ignored them. She knew exactly how much the engine could take. She had spent 30 years learning its limits. "All Marines, prepare for boarding action," Master Sergeant Kang announced over the internal channel. Her soldiers gathered at the shuttle base, weapons ready. They knew what they had to do. The Endurance flew directly toward 3 Velith ships that had moved too close together. At the last moment, Ensign Choi pulled the ship through a gap so narrow that the hull scraped against enemy shields. "Launch shuttles!" Captain Park ordered. 3 small shuttles burst from the Endurance, each carrying 20 Marines. They hit the Velith ships before the aliens could react. Master Sergeant Kang was first through the airlock. She had studied Velith ship designs for years. She knew exactly where to go. Her team moved through the corridors like ghosts, taking out the small crew before they could raise an alarm. Within minutes, 3 Velith ships were under human control. Kang's Marines turned the captured weapons on the enemy fleet. Chaos erupted among the Velith. They were being fired on by their own ships. Their automated systems could not tell friend from enemy. Vessels began firing at each other by mistake. On the Endurance, Commander Lee coordinated the attack with deadly precision. "Target their command ships," Captain Park ordered. "Do not destroy them. Just take out their communication arrays. Cut the head from the snake." Lee aimed with care and skill learned over decades of service. He hit exactly where he aimed, crippling the Velith command ships without destroying them. The automated fleet, suddenly unable to receive orders, fell into confusion. Ships stopped moving. Weapons stopped firing. The perfect Velith formation became a disorganized mess. "Lieutenant Han, I need more power to the forward shields," Park said. "Captain, the reactor is at critical levels," Han replied. "If I push any harder, we could explode." "I trust you, Lieutenant. Find a way." Han closed her eyes. She thought about everything she knew about this engine. Every repair she had made. Every trick she had learned. There had to be a way. Then she remembered something. 40 years ago, during the Kepler conflict, a Velith ship had nearly destroyed the Endurance with a shield frequency weapon. The ship's engineers at the time had found a way to counter it. That knowledge was still in the ship's old memory banks. Han accessed the ancient files. She found what she was looking for. "Captain, I have an idea. The Velith shields use a specific frequency harmonic. It is the same one they used 40 years ago. They never changed it. If I can modulate our weapons to match that frequency..." "Do it," Park ordered. Han worked quickly. Within seconds, the Endurance's weapons were modified. They fired, and the Velith shields failed. Ships that should have been protected were suddenly vulnerable. The battle turned. The Endurance struck again and again, each shot finding its target. Master Sergeant Kang's captured ships added to the destruction. The Velith fleet began to crumble. High Commander Dreth watched from his flagship as his armada fell apart. He could not believe what he was seeing. One old human ship was destroying his perfect fleet. "How is this possible?" he whispered. His officers had no answer. Their computers had no answer. Nothing in their experience could explain what was happening. But that was exactly the point. They had no experience. Their ships had no memory of past battles. They could not learn. They could not adapt. They could only follow their programming. And their programming had never faced anything like the Endurance. The battle raged for 11 hours. The crew of the Endurance fought beyond exhaustion. They fought beyond pain. They fought because their captain believed in them, because their ship had never failed them, because they were human, and humans do not give up. When the final shot was fired, 184 Velis ships were destroyed, disabled, or captured. The remaining 16 fled into deep space. High Commander Dreth's flagship drifted helplessly, its engines dead, its weapons destroyed. Master Sergeant Kang's Marines stormed the bridge and took the High Commander prisoner. He looked at the human soldiers with disbelief in his eyes. "Impossible," he said. "This is impossible." Kang smiled grimly. "You made a mistake, High Commander. You judged us by our ship's age. You should have judged us by what made it old." She put him in restraints and led him away. On the bridge of the Endurance, Captain Park finally allowed herself to sit down. Her body ached. Her mind was exhausted. But they had won. "Commander Lee, damage report. Heavy damage throughout the ship. We have lost 37 crew members. But we are still flying, Captain. We are still alive. 37 dead." Park closed her eyes for a moment, honoring their sacrifice. "They died protecting Earth," she said softly. "We will remember them." Outside, the station watched in stunned silence. The impossible had happened. One old ship had defeated an armada, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The Galactic Assembly gathered in emergency session. Delegates from across the galaxy filled the Great Hall. But this time, the mood was different. This time, when the human delegation entered, no one laughed. Captain Una Park walked at the front, her uniform still showing signs of battle. Behind her came Ambassador Taiho Kim, Commander Jiho Lee, and the surviving senior officers of the Endurance. They moved through the silent crowd with their heads held high. High Commander Dreth was brought in by Master Sergeant Kang and her Marines. His fine uniform was torn. His proud face was empty. He had been defeated in a way no Veloth commander had ever been defeated before. The Grand Speaker of the Assembly stood up. She was an ancient being, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. Her voice echoed through the hall. "What happened at Centrum Prime will be recorded in the histories of all our peoples," she announced. One ship stood against 200. One crew defied an armada. The Veloth Dominion has been defeated, and the humans of Earth have proven themselves. She turned to Captain Park. "Captain, on behalf of the Galactic Assembly, I offer you our deepest respect. We also wish to offer humanity a permanent seat on the Security Council. You have earned this honor." The hall waited for Park's response. This was a great offer. Membership on the Security Council would give Earth power and influence. It would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. But Ambassador Kim stepped forward instead. "Grand Speaker, we are grateful for your offer," he said. "But Earth must decline." Shock rippled through the assembly. Decline? Why would anyone decline such an honor? Kim continued calmly. "We do not need a seat at your table. We do not need your approval or your protection. What we need is for you to understand something important." He gestured toward Captain Park and the Endurance crew. "What you saw at Centrum Prime was not luck. It was not magic. It was the result of a philosophy that humans have followed since we first reached for the stars. We do not build the best ships. We keep the ships that survive. We do not seek glory. We seek experience." He paused, looking at the delegates from across the galaxy. Every ship in Earth's fleet has a story like the Endurance. Some are older. Some have survived worse. We have learned that technology changes, but wisdom remains. We have learned that new does not always mean better. And we have learned that the most dangerous enemy is not the strongest one, but the one who has survived everything thrown at them. The Grand Speaker nodded slowly. Then, what do you want, Ambassador? We want respect, Kim replied simply. Not friendship. Not alliance. Just respect. Respect for what we are. Respect for what we have survived. Respect for the wisdom we have earned through blood and sacrifice. He looked directly at where the Velith delegation had once sat so proudly. And we want the galaxy to remember this lesson. Earth does not build weapons. Earth builds survivors. The assembly was silent for a long moment. Then the Grand Speaker bowed her ancient head. It shall be as you say, Ambassador. Earth will have its respect, and the galaxy will remember. 1 week later, the ISS Endurance began its long journey home. The ship was badly damaged. Entire sections were sealed off. The engines could only manage half speed. But it flew. It always flew. Captain Park stood on the bridge one last time before they reached Earth. She had made a decision during the journey home. A decision that had been coming for a long time. Commander Lee, she said, when we reach home, I will be retiring. Lee looked at her with surprise. Captain? But we won. We are heroes. Park smiled tiredly. Yes, we won. And now it is time for new heroes. You have served with me for 15 years, Jiho. You know this ship. You know this crew. It is time for you to lead them. Lee was silent for a moment. Then he nodded. I am honored, Captain. I will do my best. I know you will. Lieutenant Sohihan refused promotion, just as everyone expected. The Endurance is my home, she said simply. These engines are my family. I will stay with them until my last day. Master Sergeant Yunji Kang returned to training new Marines. But she brought something new to her teaching, the stories of Centrum Prime. She wanted every young soldier to understand what they could achieve if they believed in themselves and their comrades. And Ensign Don Choi was offered a position at the Fleet Academy. He accepted, but with one condition. I will teach navigation, he said. But I will only teach manual flight. No computers. No automation. Just pilots and their ships. The Academy agreed. Soon, young pilots from across Earth were learning to fly the way Choi had flown at Centrum Prime. They learned to trust their instincts. They learned to feel their ships. They learned that experience was worth more than any computer program taught in the shipyards of Earth. Engineers began a new project. They did not try to copy the Endurance. They did not try to upgrade it. Instead, they studied it. They wanted to understand what made it survive. They wanted to capture that wisdom and share it with every ship in the fleet. What they found surprised them. The Endurance was not special because of its parts. It was not special because of its design. It was special because of its history. Every modification, every repair, every patch on its hull was the result of a lesson learned in battle. The ship itself was a library of survival wisdom. We cannot build experience, the lead engineer reported. Experience must be earned. Ship by ship, battle by battle, generation by generation. It was a humbling lesson, but it was true. Across the galaxy, the story of Centrum Prime spread from world to world. People who had never heard of Earth learned about the old ship that defeated an Armada. They learned about Captain Park and her crew. They learned the name of the ISS Endurance, and a new saying began to spread among the stars. Parents told it to their children. Captains told it to their crews. Warriors told it to their students. Beware the human ship that looks ready to die. It is the one that has learned how to live. Years passed. Captain Park lived quietly on Earth, tending a small garden by the sea. Sometimes old crew members would visit. They would drink tea together and remember the battles they had survived. One evening, Commander Lee, now Captain Lee, came to see her. The Endurance had just completed another mission. Another battle survived. Another lesson learned. The ship misses you, he said. Park smiled. The ship does not need me anymore. It has you. And it has the crew. That is enough. Lee sat down beside her. I received a message from the Galactic Assembly today. They want to build a memorial to Centrum Prime. They want to honor the humans who fought there. And what did you tell them? I told them that we do not need memorials. We have something better. He paused. We have the Endurance. As long as that ship flies, the memory of Centrum Prime lives on. Park nodded slowly. That was the right answer. She looked out at the sea, thinking about her ship, her crew, her life. She had given everything to the Endurance, and it had given everything back to her. You know, she said quietly, when I first took command of that ship, people told me I was foolish. They said I should ask for a newer vessel. They said the Endurance was too old, too damaged, too outdated. What did you tell them? Lee asked. Park smiled. I told them that age is just a number, that scars are just stories, and that the only ship worth commanding is one that knows how to survive. She turned to look at him. I was right, wasn't I? Captain Lee looked at his old commander with deep respect. Yes, Captain. You were right. Far above them, in the darkness of space, the ISS Endurance continued its endless journey among the stars. Its hull was scarred. Its systems were patched. Its engines were old. But it flew. It always flew. And it always would. The end.